Welcome to our world. Now, I would like to give the floor to the President of the Russian Federation, the esteemed Valery Vladimirovich Putin. Thank you very much, esteemed Konstantin Admirivich, dear friends. Like all of you gathered here, I would first like to express my gratitude to the President of Kazakhstan and our Kazakh colleagues for their preparation for today's meeting and for the diligent work carried out under Kazakhstan's chairmanship throughout the year with the support of teams from all our countries. As my colleagues have rightly noted, the cooperation among our states within the framework of the Collective Security Treaty Organization, CSTO, holds significant importance. This cooperation is of an allied nature, founded on the principles of friendship, good neighborliness, and mutual respect for each other's interests. Given that ours is a military political organization, some of my colleagues have asked me to provide a detailed update on the situation in the conflict zone in Ukraine and the area of the special military operation, especially in light of recent developments. I have always made it a point to share such updates during our meetings, understanding the gravity of the unfolding events. I do so today with the same sense of responsibility. It is my duty to inform you about the key events of recent years. Western escalation. As is known, officials from Western countries announced in early November their authorization for Ukraine's armed forces to strike Russian territory using long-range precision-guided Western-made weapons. We have repeatedly emphasized that this amounts to the direct involvement of these nations in the armed conflict, as deploying such weapons without the active participation of NATO military personnel and specialists is simply impossible. Despite our warnings about the risks of escalating the conflict, strikes on our territory have occurred, targeting Kursk and Bryansk regions with American missile attacks and British Storm Shadow missiles. I addressed the consequences of these attacks, including the damage inflicted, in my statement on November 21. Comparative analysis of weaponry. For context, I would note that the Russian equivalent of all three modifications of the ATACMS missile system is the Iskander missile system and its various modifications. The warhead mass and TNT equivalent is approximately the same, but the Iskander has a greater range. The new American PSM missile, by its parameters, does not surpass its Russian counterparts. Similarly, air-launched missiles like the British Storm Shadow, the French Scalp, and the German Taurus carry warheads weighing approximately 450–480 kg in TNT equivalent, with ranges of 500–650 km. The Russian equivalent to these European systems is the Kasta-1 air-launched missile. Its warhead is comparable in power but far exceeds the range of these European-made systems. The new American PSM and JASSM missiles also fall short of Russian analogues in their characteristics. Russia's production advantage. We are fully aware of the number of these systems available to potential adversaries, their storage locations, and the quantities supplied to Ukraine or slated for future delivery. Regarding the production of such missile systems and associated equipment, Russia's output surpasses the combined production of all NATO countries by a factor of 10. Next year, we plan to increase production by an additional 25–30%. Meanwhile, the leader of the Kyiv regime continues to beg his patrons for additional military equipment. Let NATO not forget the missile systems we have in service, such as the Kalibr, hypersonic missile complexes Kinzhal and Zircon, which have no equals anywhere in the world in terms of their characteristics. Their production is also ramping up and progressing at full speed. If I may put it this way, new additions to this class of armament are in development and will soon expand our menu. As the saying goes, the client will undoubtedly be satisfied. Incidentally, we have deployed these weapons systems over the past 2 days in response to continued missile attacks on Russian territory. A total of 100 missile systems, encompassing various classes I just mentioned, along with 466 precision strike drones, were utilized. Response to Western strikes. Last night, we faced a coordinated strike involving 90 missiles of similar classes and 100 drones. 17 targets were hit, including military facilities, defense industry sites, and their supporting infrastructure. Let me emphasize again, these strikes from our side were a response to the relentless attacks on Russian territory using American missiles. As I have repeatedly stated, our responses will always follow. The hypersonic Orishnik system. Most notably, we were compelled to test our newest hypersonic strike system, Orishnik, in combat conditions compelled, as I said, by attacks using Western weapons on Russia's Bryansk and Kursk regions. There are, of course, no analogues to Orishnik in the world, and I believe it will be quite some time before any emerge. Allow me to remind you, as requested, how Orishnik operates. Its multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicles attack their target at speeds of up to 10 Mach, roughly 3 km per second. The temperature of the strike elements reaches up to 4,000 degrees Celsius. For comparison, the surface temperature of the Sun ranges from 5,500 to 6,000 degrees Celsius. As a result, everything within the epicenter of the explosion disintegrates into elementary particles, effectively turning into dust. The missile can destroy even heavily fortified and deeply buried targets. Strategic impact. Military and technical experts agree that a massive deployment of Orishnik, several missiles launched in a coordinated strike, could achieve destructive power comparable to that of nuclear weapons. However, Orishnik is not a weapon of mass destruction. First, its precision capabilities have been confirmed by the tests conducted on November 21. Second, and most importantly, it contains no nuclear charge, meaning there is no nuclear contamination following its use. At present, we have several such systems ready for deployment. Naturally, we will continue responding to ongoing attacks on Russian territory using long-range Western-made missiles, which may include further operational testing of Orishnik, as was done on November 21. Future targets. Currently, the Ministry of Defense and the General Staff of the Russian Army are identifying targets for strikes within Ukraine. These could include military installations, defense industry enterprises, or decision-making centers in Kyiv. This is particularly relevant since the Kyiv regime has repeatedly attempted to strike key state targets within Russia, including St. Petersburg and Moscow. And these attempts continue. The serial production of the Orishnik system has commenced. However, the choice of weapons will ultimately depend on the nature of the selected targets and the threats posed to the Russian Federation. All I have discussed today is undoubtedly of great significance. But the most important truth remains, regardless of how advanced the weaponry may be, the outcome of any military conflict, any campaign, whether it's a special military operation or a traditional war, is ultimately decided on the ground, on the battlefield. In the end, everything depends on the soldier. Naturally, victory requires equipment, munitions, and combat supplies. But above all else, it requires motivation, the internal readiness of an individual to fight and, if necessary, to sacrifice themselves for the motherland. Questioning Ukraine's cause. What, for example, should forcibly mobilized Ukrainian soldiers and officers be sacrificing their lives for today? For the neo-Nazi Bandera regime entrenched in Kyiv? For its leaders, who have already lost their legitimacy? They didn't even stand for election. Today, they are entirely illegitimate, and from a legal standpoint, they have no right to issue orders to the armed forces. Moreover, by clinging to power unlawfully, those who carry out their orders are also committing serious crimes. These leaders have no right to send people to their deaths, driving them into slaughter. As I have mentioned, such orders are criminal. Russian soldiers and their resolve. Our soldiers, by contrast, clearly understand what they are fighting for and why they are shedding their blood. They know that, once again, as has happened many times throughout our history, it has fallen to their generation to stand in the way of forces attempting to destroy Russia, forces seeking, as they say today, a strategic defeat. This is why our men are fighting, for Russia's future and for the future of their children. No amount of weapons, no matter how modern, sent to Ukraine will change the situation on the battlefield. In our army, we have people of various nationalities. Some will cross themselves, others will call on Allah for help. But together, they will move forward, and nothing will stop them. Commemorating the past. I want to thank my colleagues for paying attention to this, as it is extremely important to remember the victory of the Soviet people in the Great Patriotic War and the upcoming 80th anniversary of this triumph. Naturally, this will be commemorated at the highest state level in all of our countries. I hope you will find the opportunity to attend these celebratory events in Moscow on May 9th. Additionally, military contingents from CSTO member states will, alongside Russian soldiers, participate in the parade on Red Square. Closing acknowledgements. In conclusion, I would like to extend my gratitude once again to Kazakhstan for the effective work carried out during its chairmanship of the CSTO. I also wish success to our Armenian colleagues, who are assuming the organization's leadership. Rest assured, we will do everything in our power to provide you, esteemed colleagues, with comprehensive support and assistance. Thank you for joining us on Our World. If you found this content valuable, please like, comment, and subscribe.